Hi, on the Woodpecker today, I'm changing 2 shutters at the cottage. At my cottage, I have 6 shutters that close exactly like this one. It's easy because I have the space. But in the front porch, I don't have space for those kinds of shutters. That's why I made removable shutters that I store on the side of the shed and put back when I leave. It's a big hassle and a bit too heavy. To lock this, I have several bolts inside the cottage. So this year, I decided to transform this into new shutters, but a bit nicer than this one. But this pile of wood didn't appear by itself. In May, we went to pick up more logs in the disaster zone behind the cottage. We cut 7 logs. In fact, it's the maximum we could fit inside my pickup box. At home, we had to transform those logs into usable planks. In fact, we did all the same operations we did last year when we cut birch planks. If you didn't already see that episode, I'm putting the link up right. After cutting 2 sides at 90 degrees, we can cut planks. This takes a bit of time, but we manage it anyway. When we have a nice pile of planks, it's time to cut the other edge parallel with the other side. And finally, I have more than enough wood for both shutters. But I'm not done. I also need hinges. Last summer, when I was in France, we noticed that everybody lives in their own small fortress and everybody has shutters. Shutters exactly like the one I want to make. They have so many that our host near Chartres, Alain, had some in his shed. He cut part of them just to save a bit of weight in our luggage. I was surprised he removed more than 1.5 kilos of weight. This will make a difference in our luggage. But even if I have the hinges, I need something to lock the shutters. I begin by moving my metal workbench outside. The first thing I do is cut 4 lengths of metal tubing. Next, I remove 3 of the 4 sides on one end of 2 of them. This will be for the padlock. After grinding this smooth, I need to file this so nobody will hurt themselves. I also need 8 lengths of this flat bar. Now it's time to clean this a little so I can weld this together. I'm molding 2 flat bars on each square tube. After this, the locking mechanism is finished. But I'm not totally done with the welding machine. I need to modify what's left of the other part of the hinges that I also brought back from France. First thing to do is to drill a hole almost right through. Each hole will receive a lag bolt. But first, I need to cut their heads. And also remove most of their coating. Then I'm able to put 2 pieces together and weld them in place. I also need to drill some holes, so I'll be able to bolt that to the shutters. Last thing to do is to drill a hole where the padlock will be on both pieces at the same time. The very last thing to do is paint this. The day before going to the cottage, I filled the pickup box with everything I'll need to make my shutters, and off we go. The first thing I do at the cottage, like always, is to assemble my workbench. Next, I lay all my planks one next to the other to figure out how they'll be glued later on. Perfect, I have enough. But they're not really straight. I need to fix this. And if you're thinking, nice, a bit of handworking, well, you'll be disappointed. Since I had a lot of stuff to bring to the cottage, I used my boat this time and brought lots of tools. Electric tools, like my track saw, to make all the edges straight. This still takes a little while, but now at least all the edges are straight. Now I have to make some marks for my next power tool. When all the mortises are cut, I check if everything will be fine. In fact, all this is to help for the glue up. Speaking of glue up, I'll use construction adhesive to glue this. When it's all back together with glue, we add 5 clamps. In fact, I brought all my long clamps with me. Now we need to wait for the glue to dry. When it's dry, we put that aside and do the same thing for the second shutter. When this glue is dry enough, it's time to use another power tool, the planer. I begin by making all the planks straight to each other by making diagonal passes. In the end, it's straight enough for its purpose. But now, those diagonal lines bother me. I make a final pass following the wood grain. But I'm not done. I still need to cut both shutters to size. I also cut them in 2. And with this last cut, the woodworking part of the shutters is done. Now I need to take care of the metal part. And my first trouble is that the part of the hinges, which are still on the cottage, are a bit too big. It's normal. They are at least 100 years old. So it's time to use my last electric tool. One down, 3 more to go. After that, I can screw what I did at home. If I compare them with the old forged ones, mine are a bit wimpy. But I'll have to live with this. I still have 3 more to screw, and I'm ready for the shutters. But before, I need to add 1 hole here on each hinge. Wow, we should have cut the hinges 3 centimeters longer. But I still would have been forced to make each hole square. Yes, it's for the carriage bolt's head. I do this 40 times. Needless to say, this took time. But after that, I'm ready to install the shutters. We begin by laying both sides on scrap pieces of wood, one beside the other, and I mark where the bolt hole should be on the left side. Then it's time to drill this. Turn it around and drill some counterboard for the washers. And screw the first hinge in place. I do all the same steps for the other hinge. And here's the first panel in place. Then comes its twin brother. I just have to repeat all the same operations for the other side, and now I have one functional shutter. It's perfect. We just need to repeat all this again for the other window, and now we have two functional shutters, but no locking mechanism. To install them, we put the first one where we want it to be and drill some shallow holes where the bolt should be. I open the shutters and finish the holes. Now I can screw the pieces. I will do that at home. First one's done. We just need to do the same thing for the second one, and the job is done. When I look at what I've done, I really like it. But I know it's a lot more work than if I had just used plywood. But with plywood, I wouldn't get this nice look. That's for sure. And with my new way of locking the shutters, it will be simpler and faster to close the cottage. This was how I made my new shutters at the cottage. I hope you were not too bored with my shutters, which are way too complicated for such a remote cottage. But even if I put a ton of work in those, it was worth it. I had fun from start to finish. And I'll see you soon on the Woodpecker.